thank you, amazing Meredith Patterson, for joining me and for having a conversation with me and being a part of this. So yeah, I'm sure all of your information and stuff will be up, but tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do for those who may not know.
Oh my gosh, what do I do, Ashley?
Well, you're an amazing Broadway performer who's done incredible work. And you're a mom, and you have a whole, you have a wellness company too.
I'm certified in holistic health. Yeah, I have a lot of sides to me, I think.
Yeah,
That's the best way to put it. But thank you for having me on this Zoom podcast episode. I love that we're recording it on Zoom as well.
We've gotten very familiar on Zoom. We're also currently working on a show. My play Snow is going up, and we're both in it, which is wonderful and such a dream for me to get to work with you. But we've gotten very familiar with Zoom very quickly.
Yes, exactly, as we all have during this pandemic.
So I guess
I just have, you honestly, in the past, what has it been, 6 months since everything hit, have given me more, creative things to do. And I'm so appreciative of you, which is so funny because we've actually never been in, well, not never, but in the same room, because we met doing my podcast over the phone. And then, and then your other incredible musical that we're working on. We did a Zoom presentation. And then now we're back on Zoom doing Snow, which is this incredible play that you've written.
Thank you. Well, thank you for being a part of stuff, because I've been a huge fan of yours for forever. And I was so honored to be on your podcast, and you were so generous and were like, let me know if you need something. I remember when the reading for my musical came up, I was like, maybe I'll try taking her up on that and just see. And you're incredible. And now we're doing like all the things, and I'm so honored to have you.
I mean, and you're welcome, because I really do, it's one of the things that I love about this business is the networking aspect, meaning good people want to work with good people. And so it really is a word of mouth network. And I feel like the more, I don't know, like the more good people that want to work with good people, we take them up on the offer. Like I'm true to my word. I'm not always like, let's do lunch, It's like LA
it's a very LA thing. Yeah.
Very LA, yes. But I really truly am the person who, wants to be introduced to incredible people in this business and get a chance to work with new people. And I honestly don't even remember who introduced me to you or asked, if you could do the podcast, or you had reached out to me. However it all happened, I was like, I read about you, and I was like, she's amazing.
Oh my gosh,
a one-woman Hamlet? What the hell?
Well, I played I wasn't one woman. Maybe some of that crazy, but
okay, because this is, now I completely revealed how ignorant I am of Shakespeare. But what I mean is that you wrote it, or you adapted it for yourself, and you started it.
I directed it, and I performed in it, and it was a gender reversal thing. Yeah, which I'm in talks to bring it back too. So that's something at some point that we should chat about as well. But I guess if anything positive has come out of this whole virtual thing, it's that it gives us an opportunity to work with people that we might not normally, because I'm based in New York, and right now you're based in LA, and to do a show together is something that wouldn't necessarily have easily happened. And because of the whole virtual thing, we've now been able to do stuff together.
It's a good side of all of that.
Yeah.
Is the ability to do things virtually, even though, as I was saying, it's very strange to be working on this play with you and be doing scenes together and not being able to be in the same room and try to act off of, I'm looking, right now I'm looking at a dot on my computer.
Yeah, me too.
And I, it's like when we're performing it, that's what it is a film and television medium. So as I was saying in one of the rehearsals, I said, it feels like I'm playing opposite an actor who doesn't want to do coverage with me.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
There are some actors who just want to go to their trailer, and they don't want to, when it's time for your work to be done, when they flip the camera around, they don't want to be there for you. So you're like staring at a dot. So it's kind of, it reminds me a lot of that. But aside from that, it still is some kind of connection. And I know that I didn't even answer your first question, Ashley, about what I do.
No, you're good. Well, let's go back, because I really want to hear your Peggy Sawyer story, especially because that was going on during 9/11, which was obviously a different thing to this, but it was similar in the sense that it was this horrible tragedy that happened that literally shut down Broadway, albeit for a much shorter amount of time. But tell me about your Peggy, because I saw you as Peggy Sawyer and you were amazing, and that's when I first became a fan of yours. But tell me your story about how that came about, and then what it was like to do that against that backdrop.
Oh yeah, well, thank you. I honestly, it's funny because people have often now looking back 19 years later, it'll be 20 years next year. That Peggy Sawyer was like the beginning of my career. And what's funny is that I had done some pretty epic, I did a really epic musical at the Paper Mill Playhouse called Follies, which was Stephen Sondheim worked on it with us, and it was Ann Miller and Kay Ballard and Lilia Montevecchi and all these incredible, huge legends. And I was only 21 at the time, and it taken me, after I moved to New York at 18, it took me 8 years to get my first Broadway show, and 9 years to get my first Broadway musical. So my first Broadway show.
What was your first Broadway show?
It was a play called The Green Bird, which was Commedia dell'arte.
Right. Yes.
And it was Julie Taymor's show, her show after The Lion King. So everybody thought it was a surefire hit. We were at the Court Theater, which was a little north of Broadway, still Broadway, but an incredible 100-year-old theater. I mean, I cried when I stepped on stage the first time, but it was not a hit. We lasted 7 weeks, and then 42nd Street happened, which was the biggest hit of that season. It was, we won the Best Revival Tony Award, and I'm actually writing a book about my experience with that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
Because it'll be 20 years next year.
Wow.
It's one of those things I do in this industry where I talk about in my, ramblings with myself, what would I, if I don't do this, will I regret it? And I've always wanted to write down my experience as Peggy, or becoming Peggy, and 9/11 and 42nd Street, just the amazingness of that whole experience of my first Broadway musical. Yeah. But I basically got my first Broadway musical. I was in the chorus, understudying Peggy, and understudying the starring role, which was this huge $11 million musical on 42nd Street. I was 26 at the time. It was an amazing experience. And 3 months into the run, we opened in May. 3 months into the run, I took over August 18th, 2001. I took over Peggy Sawyer. And I remember falling on the ground crying. I was so excited and so scared, but so elated.
Yeah.
I was starring in my first Broadway musical, my Broadway musical debut. I took over the leading role. Nothing could have, I thought nothing could have gotten in the way of that. That joy. And then 9/11 hit, and it was earth-shattering, as it was to everybody. And it happened on a Tuesday. We went back to the show on Thursday, and I remember them telling us we have to get back. They shut down Broadway, but it never happened before. No one had ever shut down Broadway before. Yeah. And we didn't want to go back. I remember us saying, like, who are we to get in tap shoes and sequins when there's people downtown who at the time we thought were stuck under the buildings. We thought that there was.
Oh gosh.
And we just felt so uneasy about even being in Times Square, because there was also threats going on to Times Square. Yeah. But I've never experienced the kind of unity that happened with not only Broadway, but that city. And then of course the country. Yeah. We, every half hour we would meet. That Thursday especially, we decided to meet in the middle of Times Square, and there was no one there. It was pretty dead. we found out that we were going to be performing for, they papered the house, which, you know, papered the house, where they give away tickets. And we were going to be performing for rescue workers, nurses, firefighters, and their wives, and people who were just in need of an escape.
Yeah.
Of course, we were the show that was tap dancing in sequence and the escape. And I, playing Peggy, was like the beacon of hope.
Yeah.
And I was just in tears thinking, how am I going to hold it together to be this beacon of hope for everybody?
Yeah.
When we met in the middle, all of us on Broadway at half hour, we all, like right before half hour, got candles and met in the middle of Times Square and literally prayed. Like,
that's amazing.
We all just got together and said, have a good show. We all walked off to our theaters. And at the end of that show, we all sang God Bless America to the audience.
Oh.
The whole audience sang. The moment, I mean, it gives me chills thinking about it. The moment the overture started, we all were just bawling, crying and tap dancing at the same time. Yeah. And it was a feeling of, you know, we knew we had to lift everybody up. We knew that's what we had to do. We knew that was what our job was. And I knew as Peggy that I was holding that show up along with the amazing Christine Ebersole and Michael Kumste was Julian Marsh. And it was an amazing experience, that first show. And then the next shows after that. And knowing that my job was to take people away, it changed my entire perspective about what I do. Yeah. It made me absolutely think that I was doing a USO show. What I'm supposed to take people away from the sadness of their day. And I feel like we still, that's what we do. And we still should be doing that, whether on Zoom or whatever we can do in this time, right? So I think that's a very, very short of what happened, but more to come.
Wow.
What comes out.
Well, no, please do. You need to write that book. It's interesting to me because I was a little school kid when 9/11 happened, but what I don't know what I was thinking about, which, I mean, I wasn't an adult in the workforce when it happened, but the difference seems to be that when 9/11 happened, it felt like, as horrific as it was, that we as a country unified and became a community of support. And it feels like what's going on now is doing the opposite of it. We're all very divided, and there's a lot of fear. I mean, just basic things like, you know, we can't be in a room together. You know, it's not safe for us to be in close proximity, certainly without masks. The country is very divided in how people think and feel. And it feels like nothing was good about 9/11, but at least we all kind of came together as a community, and everything about what's going on now, I feel like is pushing community away. And I think that's I think been hard.
And having experienced both, you know, being in the workforce and feeling that feeling of unity during 9/11, we knew that, you know, we were attacked. We knew that there was an enemy. You know, we knew that all of that was not, there was no question about it. And we knew that we needed each other. And I feel like now we don't even really even admit that there is a quote unquote virus or an enemy in the same way. And it is very polarizing what's happening and the way that people are divided. And I really do think that there is something to be said where there wasn't social media at the time when 9/11 happened. And now there's just this huge platform of people to have opinions and non-truths, fake news, whatever you want to call it. It's much easier to spread those conspiracy theories of what exactly is happening right now. And what I think is we need to unify like we did, because that was what saved us, really. It saved us mentally, because we were just horrified and you know, had extreme PTSD and still do. There's still so much of that 20 years later. And
Yeah.
this is, this is going to be a pandemic and a time in our lives that we don't even really know the ramifications entirely of what is going to happen economically, mentally, all of it. And it is scary, and it is a time where I wish there was more connection.
Yeah.
I wish there was more positivity, and people really having just a unified want to get rid of this virus and get back to a new normal, because I don't know that we're going to get back to whatever normal was, but
no. And it's also, well, and it feels like every day is something new. It's not like the one thing that we're dealing with, but I mean, we joke about like, it's the apocalypse, and every morning we wake up and it's like, oh, well, what's the next thing we're dealing with? But every morning I feel like I wake up to some new horrible thing that's going on that.
No, and it's very hard, especially, I mean, here in California, we're dealing with fires.
Yeah.
There's, hurricanes happening there, the climate change stuff. And that's also something that we're all divided about. Nobody even knows that's real. And I'm like, it's in front of our faces. It's not even a question.
And it's when we need the arts more than ever, because we really do. When all this stuff first started happening, I started watching old Haley Mills movies, because I felt like I needed to watch something that gave me some sort of hope in like the inherent goodness of humanity.
No, you're so right. It's so true. I feel like in war times, back in the 30s and 40s, or when all the movie musicals came out, that was what people, they didn't want anything too heavy. They wanted Mills. They wanted like the old Hollywood kind of stuff, which, I mean, that's my jam. That's what I've done most of my career. And I mean, I hope that there's some kind of resurgence of that as well, because it is just good old fashioned entertainment. And sometimes we need that, and we need to laugh, and we need to just believe that there is good coming.
Yeah. I'm imagining you doing in 42nd Street, Lullaby of Broadway, especially on that performance, where what that must be like for Peggy to be in that point of like, I can't do this anymore. And then like the whole company rallies around and like, we have to do this.
I actually, when I do master classes, which I love doing all over the country, I've been so fortunate to be able to do master classes. I teach the original choreography of that, because it's very, here, and it's easy choreography for literally anyone of any dance level to do.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I cannot have that song play without getting full body chills of excitement, of just hope and love. And it really connects me to what we all love about Broadway, is just that exact connection when we get on stage as a performer, or we go see a show.
Yeah.
And I mean, after 9/11, doing that number, doing 42nd Street, which the whole beginning of that song is in the heart of little old New York. I just, it was literally every show even if, as performers, we can get tired. We're athletes. We're, trying to get through 8 shows a week. If anybody's done 8 shows a week on Broadway as a dancer, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Even in those moments before 9/11, when I was tired, I would always think, I'm so lucky I have a chance to perform in someone's first Broadway show, or I'm getting a chance to do what I love, which is star on Broadway and tap dance. I mean, all of that role combined every dream that I'd ever had.
Yeah.
And after 9/11, it just added that extra layer of, this is helping people. So when you mentioned that I have a holistic health certification, I've always, I went and got one, which basically is mind, body, skin, how to help people live their best life, look their best, feel their best, all of that. And I really, as a performer, have always felt that is what I love to do, is to transform people in that way. And it just connects through all, if I have a side hustle or my main hustle performing, like all of it, I really feel like it's really just a different way of helping people.
Yeah, that's wonderful. How did you make the transition into doing film and TV? Because you've done a lot of amazing film and TV stuff. I actually, the show that got me my equity card, I did with Anna A. White, who was one of the maids in Princess Diaries too. So I was hearing a little bit about the filming of that, which you were in.
Oh my God. So I'm honestly, I've always wanted to do all mediums. I've always wanted to do television and film and all of it. And I had auditioned many times, and I made my film debut as Marilyn Monroe. No pressure.
Whoa. Yeah, no pressure for that.
I was 21 years old, and I was like, what? I'm going to be doing? Like, how? Oh, so I was very, very, very thankful to get literally just a cameo as Marilyn in the Paramount film Company Man. So I'd done some film before 42nd Street, but very, very little. And 42nd Street, of course, starring on Broadway, as everybody knows who has starred on Broadway, doors start flying open for opportunities to be seen for real serious roles, guest stars, things like that. So I got to audition a lot more. And as you know, as an actor, you have to get an audition to get the part. So I was auditioning a lot for a lot of things. And I didn't get a lot of things, but I did get a lot of really great opportunities, a lot of great guest stars. And I started my first really big film role was Lady Alyssa in Princess Diaries 2. And the way that I got that part was also very much a fairy tale. So I did the show, The Boyfriend in the Hamptons, and it was the directorial debut of Dame Julie Andrews.
Oh, you did that production.
I did.
My goodness.
So,
wow. Every single thing you've ever done has like so much pressure attached to it.
Nothing has compared to that pressure, let me tell you. I auditioned for her because I didn't think I'd get the part. I just wanted to audition and say that I sang for Julie Andrews. And I wanted to audition for, she was going to be directing The Boyfriend in the Hamptons. And I was like, maybe I could do that part. I don't even really know the show that well. But I just wanted to say that I sang for Julie Andrews. So I sang the most appropriate song for the show. I remember wearing my hair like up in a thing. Like I didn't even dress 20s. I really just didn't. I just wanted to be in the same room with her. And she could not have been nicer. She is everything you want her to be. She is.
I met her in the grocery store when I was 6 years old. And it was magical. It was magical. I think that might have been and I remember being like I remember being confused because it was Mary Poppins and Maria, but like at the same time. Like I remember being a little like, and she was just a dream and sweetheart. I have a wonderful childhood memory of getting to meet her.
She honestly, I have so many stories. I could just do a podcast just about her.
Yeah.
But I got the show, and I got the role that she played, which
no
I never
pressure.
in a million years thought I would get, and I never in a million years thought I would know that kind of pressure. And I'd already started on Broadway, so this pressure was way different. But I got that show, and we performed in the Hamptons for a month, and every single person who was a Broadway person came to see the show. It was literally like starring on Broadway. And she was incredible to me, such a loving, wonderful person. We still are in touch and still are, she's just awesome. But we were supposed to transfer to off-Broadway. Because it's really an off-Broadway musical. If you know the musical, it's very cute and should be in a small theater. And because she was filming Princess Diaries 2, she wasn't able to transfer it off-Broadway. And this is the reason that I heard. And then she told me, "Oh, you're going to be in LA. I would like you to meet. I want you to meet Gary Marshall. Do you think you can meet Gary Marshall?" And I was like, "Do you think I can meet him? Oh my God!"
No, I'm too busy. I don't think I can do that.
So she and her incredible manager, Steve, set up a meeting with me, with Gary. And little did I know that they had already talked. And Gary was going to create a role for me in this movie. Basically because Julie said.
Oh, wow.
So they created this role, Lady Alyssa. Alyssa is Gary Marshall's daughter-in-law's name. And Wells is actually Julie Andrews' real last name.
Yeah.
If you read her biography, you'll see. That's how I got the name Lady Alyssa Wells. And I met with Gary, and he just sat with me and had me do some accents with him. And was just, tell me about, whatever. And I was like, okay. It was really an awesome meeting. And I did that movie, and it really opened up a lot of doors again for me in terms of TV and film. But you can see in that movie, I had actually cut my hair for the boyfriend. I cut it for Julie, because when Julie Andrews asks you to cut your hair, you do.
Yeah.
And and so my hair is really short, and I learned my English accent from her, so I sound like her in the movie.
And you played opposite Callum Blue, is that right?
Callum Blue,
who I'm a huge fan of from Dead Like Me.
Yes.
Yeah, I adore him on Dead Like Me.
Too. And it was the first time anyone had ever seen Chris Pine, and he was super nice, and he was only 23 at the time.
Wow.
It was awesome. But I really just TV and film I auditioned for a lot of things, but there was a lot of stuff that I didn't get. I was up for Grey's Anatomy. I got really close to that show. That was really hard to not get.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shows that you don't get as an actor that are life-changing. That during a pandemic right now, a lot of people who are theater actors want to do TV and film so that they have some kind of cushion money-wise.
Right.
That's not the only reason, but those actors are still hopefully getting some money because their shows are being streamed like crazy right now.
Right.
But that's the long and short story.
Well, and everybody should go to your website and check out all the amazing things you've done, because we talked about like 3 shows briefly, but you've done so many wonderful, amazing things, and you're so talented. I remember, just in Princess Diaries, something that I've always been impressed with your performance is you're kind of, in a way, the like rival of Princess Mia in that film, like a little bit. But we always love you, and we're always like rooting for you, and we never feel like, oh, get her off because Princess Mia should, you made that role could have been like a little villainous, and it never was. I remember watching it and being like, she's the one I'd like to sit down and like have coffee with, because she just seems very nice and smart and great. And when the other guy ends up with you, you're like, oh, thank God, yes, that's how it should be. And I think that's a role that could have very easily turned not that. And I was always very impressed with how you played it and your interpretation of it.
Oh, thank you. And I never got any notes to be villainous or anything. I just played it kind of in how I would play it. And it's funny because Chris Pine and I became friends, and apparently he had a little crush on me, and I never thought of him in that way. I always kind of thought of him like a little brother, because he's 5 years older than me. And Anne Hathaway and I, the immediate first day that I came to set, she pulled me aside and started asking me about Broadway, because she's a New Jersey girl, and she's done a lot of theater and has always wanted to star on Broadway. And at the time, she knew I was the Broadway girl, so she and I had lunch, and she was so sweet and so nice to me. So I think that just probably translated on screen, that friendship that we all had on set. And I never really thought of her as a villain. That's so funny. But
well, when you take some of her lines at face value, that would be like the easy choice, I feel like, to play it that way. And that's never where it went. You came across as like the most intelligent person in that group, and the one who was just like not a part of the drama. And it's like, oh, so much could be rectified if we all just thought a little bit more like Lady Alyssa.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Y'all should just be a little more like Lady Alyssa. But in your play, Snow.
Yes, you're not playing that.
I am not. I am the opposite of that, and it is so lovely and refreshing. In fact, I was saying to my friend, I love being old enough now to play a little bit of a villain. And it's very rare that I get to. So I'm really thankful.
Really?
For that. Oh, yes. It's very rare that I get to. And maybe it's the blonde hair, blue-eyed. I don't know. But it's fun. It's really fun. And your play is incredible.
Well, thank you. Well, it feels weird asking you about my play, but since that's what you're working on at the moment, what's it like for you doing a piece on Zoom? And this is a very dark, straight play, which is a little bit different from some of the things that you've done, and the role's very different. So I guess what was your experience like of reading the script and doing an audition, and then now we're working on it on Zoom, which is
it's very strange. And a lot of us, as we said in the first rehearsal, this is our first Zoom experience, you know. I've always fancied myself as an actor, no matter what I'm from singing or dancing. And I think as you get older, I know as you get older, you have more substance to yourself as a person. And I just get, I've always loved to do plays. Like I said, my first Broadway show was a play. I've done a play at the Actors Studio when I was 20. I've done a play here at the Geffen Playhouse.
Nice.
I love plays. I love comedy. I love drama. I love it all. Like I really do. I fancy myself an eclectic performer, and I like to do something that scares me a little bit, which your play, in terms of the switching of characters, and the depth of, I get to play a mother who is an alcoholic and abusive, and all of these things that I'm like, ooh, that's fun. Like, it is something where it really is just going back to being a storyteller, and does the script excite you? That's always been my first thing. And the first read of a script always is my test. Does this excite me? Do I get it? Do I see what they're doing? Do I, and I immediately did with yours. And I actually, it's funny, and I'm admitting this to you now, I had the audition material for quite a while before I actually did it. And it was like night before. Remember? I was like, I'm gonna get you, I swear. And it's because I was a little nervous about, is this gonna come off right? Is this going to translate? You know what I mean? Like I was auditioning, we all put ourselves on tape and do stuff like that. But I was a little nervous about how am I going to make this work? And I think that is and you could correct me if I'm wrong, as an actor yourself. I think when things scare you a little bit, you feel like that challenge, that's when you're in the right place.
Oh, absolutely. And I think as a writer too, if something's not scaring me a little bit, then usually if something is scaring me, it's a good indicator that I'm doing something right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's challenging you. And I really, this play, I'm literally like, I need to be on stage for like 3 months with this play to really find it.
Well, that's what I feel so bad about it, because this play is a very physical piece. I mean,
it is.
When we did it, it was very much, we did it in like a black box theater off Broadway with a trunk and nothing else. And all the props and costume pieces were in the trunk, and we created everything. So like there's a moment when Astrid is like flying to the top of the mountain, and the other actors got me and did these cool dance lifts and stuff. And when Astrid gets buried under the ground, by that point, all of the props and costume pieces were out of the trunk, and the trunk was sort of built as a bit of an optical illusion. So it looked smaller than it actually was. And they like shoved me in the trunk, and I was physically in the trunk, which then became Isadora's vanity for the next scene. So all the talk about like, you killed your daughter, technically I'm buried in the trunk that you're then using
so
as your vanity. And so everything was done that way, and very physical, and you know, transition moments were extremely physical, and we can't do any of that. I mean, one of the plot points in the show is the character of Shadow is the ancient god of death, and he takes people by giving them the kiss of death, and we can't kiss anybody on Zoom. So it's been interesting figuring all that out.
Even, you know, honestly, and you saying that it's a very physical show, I literally find my character being a dancer, you know, I find my character by the blocking, by interacting, like actually moving, with all the other work that I do, but that really does cement things for me, and I can't do that doing this.
Well, and I feel terrible because this is a cast of 6, and me and one of the other actors have done every incarnation of it. So we've done it on our feet, so we know it. And the rest of you guys are new to the project. And I feel so bad because this is a piece that, you know, you need time to do dramaturgy on and delve into and figure it out on your feet. And we can't be doing any of that. So,
whenever anybody watches it, just know that there is so much more to it that is, I feel like, you know, when we get a chance to do it on stage, if I get a chance to do it with you, which would be
I hope that happens.
So awesome. There will be so many other layers to find.
Yeah.
Which I don't know about you, but like, I know that if I do have a challenging role, the more I can do it, like, I really feel like even Peggy Sawyer, it was about 3 months into my run that I really felt like I got it. You know, it's like,
oh yeah,
this is what the step is, or this is what the, you know, and all of the elements kind of came together. And it's really, that's what live theater is. It's why it's so dynamic, and it's never going to go away. I mean, all this is going to come back. It's just going to be very slow.
Yeah. Well, no, it's interesting about long runs. I get asked about, you know, sustaining a performance through long runs. I did my first long run of a show when I was 12, 13. It was over a year long run, and we did it. We did it in Los Angeles. We took it to the UK. So that was when I first performed. We did London, Warwick, and Stratford, and we toured it all around. And I was finding new things like the last day that I performed, and it's, which is then very weird when you do something like this that feels almost like just a more polished reading, in that, you know, we're not really able to interact. We get sort of like one shot at it.
That's a good way. It's a good way to say that it feels like a very polished, choreographed, meaning the medium of it is choreographed. Like, we know when we're camera off, mic off, all that stuff. But it does feel like a very polished reading. It's not the full fruition of what the play is, but it's still amazing.
And I'm so grateful for your musical theater background, because I found in training programs and whatnot, and in casting sometimes, there tends to be this stigma about, like, you're a musical theater person or you're like a straight actor or whatnot. And I don't know. I've found that people, if you're a good actor, you're a good actor, but being a dancer gives you this beautiful awareness of your body that you can use in so many different ways. And I've actually found that people that are really great musical theater singers translate very easily to doing Shakespeare, because they know how to work with heightened language. And so I'm very appreciative.
I've always, you know, I told you when you were helping me with Cymbeline, I've never done Shakespeare. I've never gotten the chance. And you're right with the stigma of people who are, especially song and dance, because that's what I've been put into a box. You're a tap dancer, you sing, you know, you do. If I do a genre very well, I'm very, very happy that people think of me when they think of, oh, we need a Ginger Rogers type. And I'm like, oh my God, to be in the same, you know, sentence with her is amazing.
Right.
But it does, as somebody who wants to be more eclectic, somebody who does want to branch out, and I do want to have this be a long career, not just, you know, 1 or 2 shows. It does limit you. But you're right. If you're a good actor, you're a good actor. And I feel like all the things you said about being able to use your body and connect, you know, with the text, and and you are a singer yourself. So you have you know how to, use your voice in a very productive way on stage. And
yeah, well,
I think all of it helps.
Yeah, well, and I think it's twofold, and it's one of the reasons that I have such an issue with so many musical theater training programs is they don't train artists in acting in the same way that dramatic acting programs do. And I think some of that is up to time. I mean, if you're going to be a real musical theater performer, you have to be singing in multiple styles. You're not just a dancer, you have to do tap, jazz, and ballet, and now like contemporary and modern. And you have to do like all these different things. So it sort of takes up more time in your day, but I feel like acting is sometimes what goes by the wayside. And I feel like a lot of,
and I agree with you. Most of the people who go on to be dancers professionally on Broadway or the like have been dancing since they were 5 or 6 years old. And myself, I've been dancing since I was 3. So when I got to New York and I was going to go to a school, I was going to go to Juilliard, and then Juilliard wanted to accept me in the dance program. And I was like, I think I need to work on the other side a little bit. Yeah. And so I chose not to go to Juilliard. I wanted to go to a school that would round me out in terms of my skill. And I thought it was, although having the Juilliard stamp on your resume would have been amazing, but I really don't regret that decision because I did get to explore the acting side of it. Not to the extent as, I would have liked to. I did more of that on my own out of school.
You have to.
You have to. And as a teacher, when I started teaching here at university, I was actually in charge of the dancers, the dance acting program. And there is a stigma with these dancers being like, oh, this is just an elective. Like you have to, I don't know, sort of know how to act. And I sat them all down and I was like, no. You are a storyteller. You are still an actor. And we're gonna work on your acting. We are going to get down deep into it. And they were all so thankful that I was such a champion of them, and I didn't treat them differently because they were just a dancer. Just like you shouldn't treat someone who is just an actor if you have them in a dance class. You treat them as an artist who is working on a side of their craft, and it is kind of a homeostasis of being a triple threat or being somebody who can do so many different things. And I feel like Shakespeare is a whole nother side of all of that, which it is.
Yeah.
But
Well, and
you're constantly working on your skills and sharpening your toolbox, if you will.
Yeah. And I think sometimes casting doesn't help because there is definitely a stigma about like the Broadway musical theater _ingenue is somebody who's pretty and not like super smart. And I don't know. I really disagree with that. Sarah Ford and I have had a lot of conversations that I like my ingenues to be really intelligent. And to me, that's what sells it. But I think
I'm so thankful you are a writer as well. I mean, you write such incredible stuff, and you do write very strong women characters. And I think that we need more of that because you are right. They do, casting directors, their job is to cast you. So a lot of the times they put you in a type, in a box, and I've had so many instances of people saying, well, you're a blonde. And I'm like, I can wear a wig. Like I can, They don't have imagination in that way. And so a lot of times the ingenue, which I believe is changing, I feel like a lot of characters are changing and it's broadening a little bit.
Yeah, I just think that for me, innocence is a separate thing from intelligence. And a lot of times innocence and stupidity go hand in hand. And I'm not a fan of it. And also, like, I mean, I don't know, with dancers, I mean, I've been dancing since I was 2. And there is that thing that as a dancer, you are trained to do what that choreographer tells you and to take a lot of abuse sometimes and whatnot. And so then dancers tend to get a stigma of not a brain in their head, but they'll do anything you tell them to do, which is, I don't know, I think we need to just start at school and break down some of these things because it's not cool.
Especially if you come from the ballet world, which I do.
Yes.
And
me too.
You are told what to do. And in fact, I've had a lot of film and television directors out here be like, oh, you're a theater girl. That's why you're on time. That's why you say. That's why you don't challenge everything I say. And there is something to be said for that discipline. And I do have a lot of people who on the flip side really appreciate
Yeah.
that discipline. And when you do start to work and show up, and you are intelligent and also
and always hit your mark without having to look down,
and always,
and
exactly,
you know,
yeah, exactly. And you know what you're doing, and you're there, and you're reliable. That's, you know, that's something that people love, and they want to hire you. And it's a small business, right? We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
So your reputation is a lot.
Yeah. Well, since we're working on snow, for people who don't know, why not, and since you're newer to it than I am, can you tell folks listening what snow is, what it's about, what interested you in the piece? I know, I'm sorry. It's
like, can you, if I was talking about Follies and you were Stephen Sondheim,
right.
like, can you tell me about Follies? I'd be like, oh my God, yes, but do I want to say it in front of you? Well, it's
probably better because you have a newer, fresher, you know, outside perspective on it. So
it is. Yeah. It is a. Oh, I'm gonna butcher it, Ashley. I know it. It is a telling of Snow White.
Mm-hmm.
It is past, present, and weaving in different characters from those eras. It's bringing in history into Snow White, as well as expanding on what maybe was lost in the story. It's and like I said, it's a cast of 6 characters, and we're all playing different. We're weaving in and out of those timelines, and just I feel like I'm already butchering it. But
no, you're not at all.
I'm actually, honestly, and I'm learning a lot about the story of Snow White, and how we all know how stories are, you know, kind of telephoned through generations, and they could have been changed, and they were. And I know that in your research of doing this, you probably delved a lot deeper than I even have into 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭's library and the story of Snow White, and just in general how stories were brought down from, you know, through the ages, and how you could tell the story, you know, with Donna and Astrid in present day, a present day kind of Snow White, with sort of I consider her, you know, a little, not schizophrenic, but just switching of personalities based on her alcoholism and things like that, and turning into the evil stepmother, and then going back to, you know, loving mother. But it really is a very dynamic way of telling all of the history of Snow White and weaving the characters in. And I know that I butchered the summary.
You did not at all. That was lovely. It was lovely. And you're doing such an amazing job in the show.
Thank you.
It's so good.
But I really, you know, I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Is there anything that, in going down the rabbit hole of finding out about Snow White, is there anything that, like, I mean, that must have been in like an internet search, like, to start this whole thing.
Well,
how did you start to write it?
Here's the weird thing about me. I didn't have to do any research because I knew all of the stuff going in. That's what a nerd I am about fairy tales. I mean, I double checked certain things, but I've always loved fairy tales since I was really young. And like, my favorite thing to do would be to go to the library and check out like every version of the fairy tale that existed. And I read the Grimm brothers biography at an earlier age. And so all this stuff is stuff that I already knew and wanted to sort of make sense of. And actually, I guess the trajectory of my writing this play, I guess without being too long-winded about it, it started actually as I was commissioned to write a children's theater production of Snow White, which is not the play that we're doing, but it was this other thing. And Snow White's always fascinated me because there are plot holes in it, and there are things that break the rules of other fairy tales. Like, for example, it's the only fairy tale where being nice to an old woman will not get you a reward. It will kill you. So there's things that like don't jive with other fairy tale rules. And I knew all of this research about it. I knew how it had been collected. I knew about editing changes that had happened. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to write my version of the fairy tale, but I kind of want it to be my version, and I answer some questions and some of these plot holes and things. So it did actually tell the story, and this won't really make sense to listeners, but the Snow White character, instead of finding 7 dwarves, found 𝐸𝐿, 𝐸𝐿aris, and Shadow in the little house in the tree in the forest, because dwarves and fairies and whatnot, as is said in the play, used to be the ancient gods of Germany and all those countries. So I was like, what would my version of the dwarves be? And I'm like, well, they're ancient gods. Dwarves were originally the gatekeepers between worlds. Like, what would I do with that? So I wrote this piece, and it wasn't quite a children's theater piece, but it wasn't an adult piece. And we did a reading of it, and it was one of the worst experiences I've ever had as a writer, like ever. And I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want to like throw anybody under the bus, but let's just say I left that reading feeling myself thrown under the bus a little bit and questioning everything about myself as a writer. Like for the first and kind of only time in my life, I left there being like, I don't know if I should ever put another word on a piece of paper. And it was just this really awful thing.
Isn't that, not to sidestep a little bit, but isn't that kind of like every single artist that has been successful has had that moment of being like, I should never do this again. Like, I just felt so bad, or whatever happened. It puts that in your head. And I find most talented people usually say that the most.
It's very scary to go through it though, because I'm somebody that I'm very good at taking criticism. I'm very good at realizing when things need to be changed. But underneath it feeling like, cool, I know what I need to do, and I'm going to do the thing and whatnot. And this was the first time, like all of that, I just felt like shaken to the core. And I didn't know what to do. And I sort of was like, if I don't get back on the horse, this could be real bad. So I rewrote it as a children's piece. I like finished my commission, and that was that. But I really sat back and I'm like, okay, what do I actually want to be writing about? What is it that I actually want to be exploring in the show? And I was like, I want to talk about the importance and power of storytelling, because storytelling used to be inherent to us as human beings in our collective culture. And we're not really a storytelling culture anymore. Other than like going to a show or going to see a movie or something, we don't sit around and tell stories. And stories were hugely impactful on me as a child. I went through some very difficult experiences growing up, stories and storytelling, got me through it. And I wanted to explore that. And so sort of going from that as my goal, and being like, okay, great. So that's what I want to do. Let's actually write this as an adult piece, so I don't have to shy away from anything I want to explore. And then I don't know. I sat down, and I don't quite remember where the idea of the 3 different storylines originally came from. I knew that I wanted to talk about the origins of the story, because one person who is a friend of mine made a very helpful observation at this reading she said, I don't think you're aware that not everybody knows as much about the history of these things as you do. And I'm like, oh, that's a very good point.
But that's a really good point. But what's really great about it is that you are in doing this play, you are teaching people. And that's the first time I read it, I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And of course it was changed. And of course it's this and that. And so it actually did and does teach people about the history of it. So it's awesome.
Yeah. So I think I wanted to sort of dog ear the 3 moments where storytelling changed the most for us as a culture. And so the first storyline is the historically accurate story of the Grimm brothers and how they collected the tales and why that was important, and then why they themselves started changing it. The next time things really changed was in the Victorian era, where the stories fell out of fashion with adults. And so they started sending them up to the nursery, and they started deliberately rewriting them and putting these like little morals on the end. So a lot of what we think of as fairy tales being morals for children came from the Victorian era. It didn't come from when they were originally created. And then the next big change, honestly, is sort of in modern day with the Disney era, and Disney completely rewrote fairy tales as well. And I'm a big fan of Disney, but that's kind of what we think of now when we think of certain fairy tales. And so I had those sort of 3, and then I interwove this storylines, and I had the same actors play parallel archetypes in each. And yeah, wanted it to be an exploration of what happens when we start losing our stories, when we no longer, I mean, Clara in the Victorian storyline, I think the reason that she has such a tragic outcome is she was never prepared. And stories are one way that one thing that can prepare you to face the outside world. And there's that scene that you have with the ghost of young Clara where she really starts saying, you know, you only read me happy stories, and you only read me stories with easy morals on the end. And maybe if I'd been better prepared, these things wouldn't have happened. And then in modern day, you have Astrid, who gets the stories, but doesn't know if she can really believe in the hope of them. So I did that, and then I wrote it in like 6 days because I tend to write things quickly.
You know, and having worked on the other meeting with you, like, and you wrote that really fast, like you just, I think you are incredible that you can do that, and then you just power through. It's almost like it's all compressed in here, and then you just like let it out in a week, and it all comes out. It's like that. It's one of my favorite books called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, which is all about when the magic's coming through you, you have to let it out and get it down on paper, or however you show magic as an artist, and you do that so well.
Well,
and
thank you.
This play is so much fun, and it's like I said, I feel like I'm literally at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
You know, the characters that I get to play, which I love so much.
Do you have a favorite part? Do you have a favorite thing that you get to do?
You know, it's so funny because I actually told my mother, whose name is Donna, who
God, I'm so sorry. I remember you said that, and I wasn't sure if you'd read the play before or after you told me that anecdote, and I'm like, oh, yay.
So I would say Donna would be my favorite because it's my mother's name. But when I told my mother, I said, Mom, when you watch this, trust me, like, you are nothing like Donna. But I love the, you know, Isadora is I feel like she's this wolf in sheep's clothing, that she's trying to show, you know, a side of her that is proper, and but then deep down, she's just, you know, a cesspool of evil. And, but I love all three characters so much. I just really love, and then of course I love being the evil queen when she comes out.
But you do it so beautifully. You do it so wonderfully. I wish I got to like see you do it more, because I'm always like staring in the camera. You're right. It is very much like shooting coverage. I'm always staring in the camera, and I'm like, I can't wait to see this later and see all the choices that Meredith's making.
It is very much, you know, this is something that this play, when I read it, I'm like, this could be a film. This is an incredible story. The way that you weave them all in. I really do love it, and I hope that it's well received via Zoom. I know that it's not. Like I keep saying, it's not fully realized, because I just don't want people to think that. You know, I feel like if you have a reading of something on Zoom that is transporting you somewhere, imagine what it will be like. Yeah. With all the other elements, because as we know, theater is a collective art, and having all of the elements together. Lighting and stage and sets and costumes and all the amazing things, and then just the ability to have the, you know, molecular energy of being in the same room, which does change people as actors and performers, and it's why live theater is still what it is. Yeah, it's interesting because you want to be in the same room.
Yes. It's made me think a lot about the development process of pieces, because physicality in my work has always been very important. When I was younger, I kind of thought for a while that I didn't know if I wanted to be an actor, because all the plays that I had seen were completely devoid of physicality. And they were like a lot of people sitting around a table, like talking at each other. And so I tend to write very physical pieces, because that is something that I love exploring. Yeah. But the entire development process of the way new pieces work is completely separated from physicality. And I understand it to a degree, because adding physicality is a whole other rehearsal process, and it uses the actor's time in a very specific way. But what it ends up meaning with a bunch of readings and things is a lot of times you end up with something that is phenomenal on paper. And it's just great on paper. And if you get up with music stands, it's great. And then when it starts translating to a stage, it suddenly doesn't work anymore. And it's one of the reasons I feel very fortunate that a lot of my work has been developed on its feet. But it's interesting then to take a piece that is very physical and has been done physically and take it back to kind of basically just the language part of it, which I also love heightened language, and that's a big part of the show too. But
yeah,
I think it's great.
And going to what you said, it's very hard to know what is going to work and what isn't going to work in this business anyway. Like regardless of this process,
I mean,
it is hard to know. That's why there is no formula. There is kind of a formula, but there's no rhyme or reason to know if it will work or not, or if it will go or not, as we say, if it'll have legs. But I think, when I get excited about something just in script form, that's my indication that it's a good project to work on. So, and
what advice? Well, thank you. Thank you. What advice would you give to artists out there who are either wanting to make the arts their career or are struggling with the quarantine and all this stuff going on right now of how...
Oh gosh, I'm going to put on my holistic health hat as well as my artist hat, because there's a lot to consume at this time mentally. And I, in my 20s when I first started out, God, even before then, I had such driving ambition within me. Yeah. I could not get to New York fast enough. I couldn't get to audition to dance class, or, I just wanted to be in the thick of it with everybody. And if there's anybody out there now who feels that way and can't, I get it. I mean, I don't get it because I didn't have to do it at the time, but I get it. There's moments that I have now where I'm like, I just want to dance. I just want to sing. I just want to do something. So I do. I get on Zoom, and it's not the same at all, but I have young kids, so they get to be kid-like with me, or I get to be kid-like with them. And I dance around, and I get out that kinetic energy that's inside my body, which is very good for your immune system. It's very good for your body as a whole to get those feelings out. If you remember back in the day, restless leg syndrome was like a thing. Mm-hmm. I used to always say, just get up and dance, get up and move around. Like, your body needs to move. So if you feel like you are in this containment place, and that's just body wise, mentally, start a journal. Really, if you don't already have one, write down your thoughts, your feelings, create things that you can start to think outside the box creatively. I used to constantly tell myself, and now I'm writing a book, I used to constantly tell myself, you're not a writer. You don't know how to write. You've never trained in writing. Like, I feel like I have to train in something to be able to be creative at it, but you don't. If you are somebody right now who wants to paint, order some paints online, get a canvas, and start creating, because regardless of what your normal creative life is like, I feel like any kind of creative, cathartic thing that you can do for yourself is very important. It's as important as eating vegetables or, drinking water or getting your exercise. You really need that connection. And even though I'm on Zoom doing these Zoom rehearsals with you, Ashley, I do feel a sense, it's a very different sense, but I feel a sense of connection, artistry. I feel like I'm using those muscles again. So that would be my advice. It is hard. Know that. So if you have 5 minutes of anger that you need to scream in a pillow, do it, because you need to get all that out. And then you need to every day, find 5 things you're grateful for, and just repeat that in your head. And, if you're having a hard time finding something, just take a deep breath. And that is, that's what I always do. And especially now in this environment, taking a deep breath, that is something that I've been connecting a lot to, people on ventilators and people with masks and people who are healthcare workers and all of that stuff. I have to get out of my own way and get out of my own head and get back to just being grateful. And it's hard. It's different for everybody. Like you were saying before, everybody has a different experience. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of angst. There's a lot of whatever your situation is, but always trying to go back to gratitude sounds really zen and woo-woo, as one of my friends used to say. But if you can do it and you can get back there every day, then you've won, and you go on to the next day. And every day I wake up now, I go, you know what? I'm not one of the 190 something thousand people that have passed away. And I am lucky that I still don't even know anyone personally who has passed away from coronavirus. And that to me feels like a blessing.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I'm very grateful for the opportunity to connect with people that I wouldn't normally, like, you and I are doing a show together, and that probably wouldn't normally be happening because we live in different places. At this particular moment, maybe not, but and we will be doing it in person soon as well. But you're making your UK debut technically with this show.
It's very strange, but I'm technically making my UK debut. Yes.
And it's with a UK theater company, and we have Broadway performers and LA performers and UK performers in it. And I've connected with artists out of Chicago and various places that we met because we were all just sort of online, like looking for people, and we can because of the virtual thing. So I don't know. I'm trying to look at that as something definitely to be grateful for, in amongst a lot of really horrible things that are going on at the moment.
I feel like I'm starting to say, things are, if something, it's a very zen saying, which is anything that happens is a happy accident. It's leading towards something better. It's very hard to say that in a pandemic. It's like, that's like monk Zen mindset. But I do, in the small things that happen, like when we were rehearsing and my internet went out, I was like, okay. If you remember my text, I was like, happy accident, I guess. Right. Maybe this is just something, who knows? But I do find that if I can not, and even more so than anything now, I don't sweat the small stuff. I'm not really concerned with, comparison is death in terms of like scrolling on social media, which I know a lot of people are doing way too much screen time right now. But, doing that whole thing that we do in this entertainment industry, where we compare ourselves with everybody and what everybody's doing. Well, nobody's doing anything really right now, but it is that mentality of keeping up with the Joneses or keeping up with your dreams and any of that stuff. And I feel like we all just have to collectively stop with that sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system, fight or flight thing, and just get back to a centered place and slow down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling my 20-year-old self to do that, because I know there's somebody out there who was like, just so pissed off that there's so many things that they should be doing or we're supposed to be doing, and all of those things. And we just all have to just take a breath and know that this is for our greater good, whatever that is. Maybe it's going to teach a whole new set of skills for live theater, to be streamed on Netflix or Disney Plus or things like that, which will open up us as performers to so many more millions of people. So that will also add more security to us and our careers financially. So that could be the thing. I mean, who knows? This is where I'm trying to always find the Pollyanna, Peggy Sawyer good side of everything. But,
and one good thing that people can take advantage of is working with you, whether for holistic healing or for coaching. How can people find you if they want to get in touch?
I'm not really doing as much personal holistic health coaching, but I would if people reach out to me and they really want help. And what I usually do with that is kind of, I can do it on Zoom, but I just have hour-long consultation. The first one's always free. And it's basically, it's bio-individual. So it's to your needs and wants, body, mind, and spirit. And I'm not a nutritionist, but I have a lot of training in how to balance and eliminate addictive foods. I've taken.
You're also an athlete who's done 8 shows a week, so I would totally trust you to tell me what to be eating.
I love to teach people how to eat for 8 shows a week, because I did not as Peggy, and I wish that I did, and I learned a lot about that. But yeah, it's basically, I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York, and I'm also a graduate of the National Holistic Institute here in Los Angeles. So I do have training. I do have a certification with both of those schools, as well as a couple other certifications. But I have 20 years experience as an athlete and as a dancer, singer, actor in the entertainment industry, which is all about taking care of yourself. So I do love to coach people privately on taking care of themselves. So to find me, you can go to meredithpatterson.com, and I get all those messages. So you can go straight to that. But I have an Instagram as well, Mayor Patterson, and Meredith Braley is my holistic health Instagram. So.
And you're also a wonderful performance coach and performer. Like hire her, call her up, hire her. She's a joy and a delight to work with.
I've taught at 3 universities and master classes, and I love teaching on-camera technique and teaching people how to look good for the camera and what angles to use and things like that.
Which you always do. I mean, every time we come onto Zoom, I'm like, Meredith, how do you always look so good?
I'll show you. I have my ring light.
Yay!
So, you have to have these tools now. You should have them anyway. But now, especially with, this is our medium. So you have to be a technician as well as an artist. So you have to be a quadruple threat, I guess.
Yeah. And Snow is being performed live on Friday, October 2nd at 7:30 p.m. UK time, which is 2:30 p.m. New York time and 11:30 a.m. Los Angeles time. We've gotten really good at doing the conversions, but it's going to be up for 48 hours afterwards. So if you get a ticket, you can see it if that particular time doesn't work for you. And you can get tickets by going to southdevonplayers.com. Or you can stop me.
Are you going to watch yourself after it's done? Are you going to go back and watch yourself?
Probably not. I don't know. I've gotten actually really good at watching back like film things or performance things that I've done in order to analyze it or like as a writer to make it better or whatnot. So I can do it, but I mean, watching myself is not my favorite thing.
It's horrifying. I realized that when I saw my first thing I ever did on television, which was Boston Legal, and I knew like 12 million people were watching it because it was opposite Tom Selleck and all these incredible, Candice Bergen, and it was on ABC, and I was like, oh my God. I got so sick to my stomach. I was covering my face. All my friends were like, oh my God, your scene's on. And I was like, I don't want to see it. I can't take it. Every insecurity you have about yourself. And it's really not even about that. It's just this strange feeling of seeing yourself. Seeing myself in Princess Diaries when we did to see myself in the big screen.
Horrifying. It's horrifying.
Yeah, it's horrifying. And I don't like it. So I know that there's a lot of actors who don't like watching themselves. I like you have learned how to separate myself. I have a short film that's coming out.
Awesome.
That I'm the star of, and it's very strange. But I've learned to separate myself, trying to separate myself, and to really, I have to watch it a few times to really be able to separate, which I never truly am able to do, but to really watch the story and see if it works. And I'm always kind of judging myself, which is, that's an actor's job.
That was one of the oddly freeing things about Hamlet is I didn't look like myself in any way, shape, or form. Had no makeup on, was wearing a wig, was wearing body altering clothing and things like that. So when I would see clips and whatnot, it felt like it wasn't me in a way, which was that was nice, and that was very freeing.
I think that would be easier. I've never done anything where I've really looked so different.
Yeah.
Except for
I think
Yeah.
The worst for me is when I have to watch myself on camera and I'm supposed to be a pretty woman. Like that's what because then I don't know, then all it is about like the way you look. But that's why I don't know. I like on film playing.
If you're supposed to be like sexy, or you're supposed to be something else.
No.
I'm always going to the comedy with myself. I'm always like,
oh yeah.
I'm there. Like even in headshots, sometimes I'll look at myself and I'll be like, oh God, look at that picture.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe.
But the more I'm playing someone that's like not me, like I feel like the less judgy of it I get. But the second that it's like you're playing the sexy young woman in this, it's like I will never watch myself.
Like I said, it's all your insecurities that come out, and it's really a mental game. But I think you first of all, you are beautiful. So like this is where we all have to just be like, you know,
well, but this industry is so hard. Like I don't know. I think I did this because I just was getting so fed up with that I was experiencing it, but also artists that I work with were as well. On social media, I posted my headshot, which is it's a lovely headshot, with every horrible comment that a casting director or director had like ever said to me, like in the audition room. And it's just like, can we all just please stop?
To your face?
Yeah.
Said this stuff? Wow.
Yep. Yeah. And like horrible things, but it's everybody. It's not just me. And so it's just like, can we just stop?
We've all heard it. I mean, not, you know, it's the one thing that that to hear it said to your face.
Yeah.
Boy, it's not even a thick skin. I don't even think that that's it, because unlike any other industry, you are the product. So you can't separate it. It's really hard. And then every time you look in the mirror, you go, well, this person who was this huge casting director for, you know, you respect these people and you believe like, well, they've cast this and that, so they must know.
Yeah.
And so then you look in the mirror and you pick yourself apart. And there's so much that's going back to the mental aspect of this industry that I so want to protect people from, but I know I can't. So you just have to armor people with, as much as you can, a sense of self that is good. And you, my dear, who I adore, and
I adore you too.
I'm getting to know so much better. You are beautiful. You're stunning to me. I literally see Snow White. So I just
thank you.
To me, I can
you're freaking amazing.
But I understand all the things that the self-talk, because I was a gangly, crooked teeth wallflower. I was not somebody who was, you know, popular in high school and had all the boys after me. And I still, when I look at myself on camera and I'm trying to be sexy, you know, that's why I play a lot of comedies. I really don't see myself that way. And it's a very interesting mental part of this business, because you are typed a certain way. Mm-hmm. And when I get to play a character that is very not me, where I don't look like myself or anything, like, or I get to really, really metamorphosize the outside of me. Yeah. I'm so looking forward to that, because it really does change you as an actor and a storyteller, and it gets you out of your own head, if that makes sense.
The typing thing is so weird, because my whole career nobody's ever known what to do with me, because I'm a chameleon. I kind of like disappear into roles, but like they've never really known what to do with me. So like doing Hamlet became this calling card, because I then became the girl who played Hamlet. Yeah. And
you created, this is what you are so smart doing, in, you know, being a writer and creating roles for yourself is just the smartest thing you could do in this industry.
Well, but I love doing that with casting and writing as well. Like I'll find super interesting performers like you who, so a lot of people that I know have had the opposite problem as me, where they've been very much in a box because of their physical type. And I'll be like, tell me the role that you've always wanted to play and nobody's ever cast you in it. And then I'll create something and like cast, because I don't know. I think your soul is crying out. Souls are crying out to play certain roles, and like you should, because it's going to work well. And superficial appearance things, I think, you know, unless it's unless you're like playing Helen of Troy and you have to look a certain way for a very specific reason, I think there's way too much emphasis placed on it.
That movie, by the way.
Which, say that again?
I auditioned for that movie, by the way. Troy.
Of course you did.
Yes. Oh, I got down to the end and I was like, what? Like, how is this happening? And I remember being like, I never, I don't know, remember she was a model. It was her thing.
Yeah.
Getting it. Brilliant actress, like really, really, really great actress. But I remember being like, how am I probably self-sabotaged it because I was like, how am I getting in this close? Helen of Troy. Like it is such a, unless you're playing a role like that, like, but even in the most beautiful people that I have had a chance to be around, work with, whatever, I guess you could say, there's usually the ones that are not completely absorbed are really questioning that's not really what they're all about. So yes, I think
for sure.
I'm going to tell you next time we talk, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to think about a role that I want to play.
Yes. Please do. Well, I don't think that
Snow is fulfilling a lot of things for me. So
good. No, I will totally write something for you, but I'm thinking about one of my, I don't think she'll mind me telling this story, but one of my dearest friends is Lauren Lopez, who a lot of people know from, Team Star Kid and the Harry Potter musical and whatnot. But we met because I was casting a piece of mine, and